It's almost been 48 hours. Our case is running cold.
Not on my watch. I have a lead that says the next crime will be on the street.
Is that?
No. We were too late.
It's terrible.
The worst I've ever seen.
Cut. That's the worst performance I've seen. Another episode of that and we'll be cancelled for sure.
But we remembered all our lines.
And delivered them with that same wooden expression. Your emotions never change. You're the worst actor I've ever seen.
That really hurts my feelings.
We're done for today. You better come back tomorrow with real expressions or you're off the project. I know 1,000 other guys who look like you.
Nendoroid More is a thing Good Smile Company does to expand the playability of your Nendoroids. They have little outfits and they also have little faces. So they've been doing these for a while now, and my box has a 9 on it, so I'm guessing that this is the 9th one in the series. But basically they'll have a bunch of faces and then you get to vote on the ones that will become real faces. So back when I started making custom Nendoroid dolls, especially Salim, who was my first one, I was very into optional faces. For a while, it was like a hobby, just finding faces that looked like I could make them into his face and adding to his collection of faces. And once that, I guess honeymoon period ended, and he just settled into being one of my dolls. And as I got more dolls, it was too much to keep up with, trying to have them all have different faces. And I found that most of the time, I just leave his default face on him. So I kind of fell away from the custom facing world. And it was, I still had hope that that was a thing I would be doing, that I pre-ordered this. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to get myself back into modifying faces and to get some more faces from my other Nendoroids who don't have them, and just have some fun and test my skills. And I don't really like to paint Nendoroid faces from scratch. I'm hoping that as I get better, I'll be able to do that. But in general, I just really like modifying things. It's very fun to me. And what I want to do with these is take the faces and make them look more specific to the Nendoroids that I already have. So, if you look at the box, you can see that there's a licking face, a tongue out face, but the eyes are blue. And maybe the character I want to put the face on doesn't have blue eyes. So I'm going to do things like that. And I have a lot of very interesting plans for what I want to do with each face. So instead of describing it to you, I'm going to go ahead and go over each face and talk about what I would like to do to it and which character I am specifically making it for. This face set comes with 9 faces, and I'll tell you right off the bat that I intended to use all but one of them, and a couple things happened and 2 of those got knocked out of the running. But here's each face and what I at least wanted to do with it. Starting off with this face, it's a super cute, happy face with a heart mouth. It reminds me very much of Victor from Yuri on Ice. And at first I wasn't sure what to do with this one. I was actually not going to do anything with it. But then I thought it would work really well as Shinji's face from the final scene of Evangelion. So I decided to go ahead and do that. And in order to do that, I would need to wipe off the mouth. So that was what I went in understanding that I needed to do. Next up is my first failure, which was a bummer because I was really excited for this face. This is a tongue sticking out face, and my plan was to use it for Pride because there's some scenes during some fights where he like makes a tongue sticky outy face, and I've been wanting a face like that for him. The eyes looked really menacing. I thought it would be perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you now that while I was painting it, I had some trouble with covering up the blue of the eyes. I wanted to cover it with red, and it was just not happening. I ended up slightly in a rage and slightly because there was nothing else I could do. I ended up erasing like the whole eyes, so I still have the tongue part, and eventually I would like to just draw in my own eyes, but for this project I decided to put that one in the later project bin. Next up was this embarrassed face, which I decided to use for Hanako-kun. So I've been wanting to make Hanako some faces for a while now, but I was quite intimidated by knowing I would need to paint his eyes. And I would definitely have to do that for this face, but I was up to the challenge, and the reason I'm doing this face for him is because it reminds me very much of the face that he makes in this panel. No context for spoilers. This is one of the more unique faces in the pack. It's a classic anime nosebleed face with the heart eyes and the woo mouth, and there's a lot going on here. So I don't even remember what I think my initial plan was to just sell this face off. But then I realized that it would also work very well for Hanako-kun, and it reminded me of the panel where he's saying you can do all the pervy stuff you want. So for this one, I knew I would need to wipe off the mouth, which made it one of my higher skill level projects. This one's a sleepy face. It's absolutely adorable, and I decided to just leave it as is because since the eyes are closed, it can work for pretty much any character. But I did put it on Shinji here for illustrative purposes. This one is unintentionally or not a Neuron face. Does anyone remember Neuron from oh no. Oh man. Okay, well, I decided not to use this one. It's a little bit too cartoony for any of the characters I have, and it seems like a waste to change it, so I'm probably just going to put this one up for sale. This super cartoony smiling face I decided to also give to Hanako-kun. And unlike the other two where I had an exact panel that I could relate it to, this one I really don't. I just feel like that's a face that he would make. Like, I feel his vibe from it. And it's also a pretty easy fix because I don't have to paint eyes. I can just paint the seal on there and we'll be done. Face number 8 was another failure. This one I originally planned to give to Pride. First I thought I would make the eyes smaller, and then I thought I would color in the eyes, and I messed that up pretty badly. I think it could have been rescued, but I decided not to rescue it. Sometimes you have to be very patient when you do these kinds of things, or you will mess something up, which was a bit of a problem for me because I was trying to do this as a quick and fun project. Anyway, I ended up erasing the eyes on these and leaving the mouth, and just like with the tongue sticky outy face, I'll do something with it some other time because the mouth is pretty cute. And face number 9. This is a worried face with big purple eyes. I was first going to put this on Hanako, also not because I saw him make a face like that, but just because it seemed like a decent fit for him. And I think between my lukewarm enthusiasm for putting the face on him and the other faces that I had already messed up by this point, I decided to just stick this one in my later project bin because it is a cute face, but not today. In the end, that leaves me with 4 faces that were completed, 1 for Shinji and 3 for Hanako. So let's go ahead and see how I did that.
How did you become a director at such a young age?
My dad's the president.
Now let's get to painting. First is the 3 faces I did for Hanako-kun, and I ended up doing all of my faces in steps to make things simpler. You know, I've got the paint out, I've got the paint ready. Might as well do everything in one color at the same time. So the first thing I did was the white on his seal. Even this was quite intimidating to me in my mind, but once I started, it was actually really easy. Even getting a perfect rectangle was easy. The only thing that differentiated among the faces is that on some of them, the blush marks would get in the way, so I would have to have the face seal be a little bit off to the side, but that was pretty much it. I also had to paint on the kanji, and for that I just referenced his original face, and it wasn't too bad. It's a pretty simple one to do. The only issue was just on some of them the lines are a little bit thicker than I would prefer. I think I'm still getting the hang of doing really thin lines with my brushes. The next thing that needed to be painted was the eyes on the embarrassed face. If you recall from my listing of the faces earlier, I said that I ruined the tongue sticky outy face by trying to cover up the blue eyes with red. And I think the reason that happened is because it was such an intense blue, but this gray actually covered up very nicely. So I think in the future I'll keep that in mind, that certain colors can be covered up better than others. You'd think that would be common sense. Then skipping real quick to my first finished version, you can see that I put the pupils near the top because that's where the pupils on Hanako's eyes go. But I looked back at the reference and I realized they should go in the middle. So I had to remove the paint and then do it again, but with the pupils in the middle this time. The final step was adding some orange to the top. This was something I wasn't sure if I should do since it's kind of not in the reference, but I thought it would be nice as opposed to having his whole eye be yellow. Also, I want to point out, in this video you may have noticed that my nails and my fingers are very, very dirty. When about 10 years ago, I posted on a website and I needed some help with something. It was a figure website, not MFC. And someone commented that my nails were disgusting and that I should clean them. And it really hurt my feelings, and it has haunted me ever since. Not to the point that I would clean up my nails. The stuff on my nails right now is paint from a project I was working on. I know a lot of people have like those deco nails, which are great. They're beautiful. I cannot stand having like my nails painted or anything. So this is how it is. I just wanted to tell that story. So far everything has been additive, but for this next face I needed to do something subtractive. So from when I first started, I used acetone for everything, and since starting to do Dolphy Dream face-ups, I've learned that you don't need to use acetone for everything. But when it comes to removing the paint from Nendoroid faces, you actually do need acetone. Otherwise, I've been using rubbing alcohol. Acetone is like toxic and flammable, so be careful with that. Also, it smells terrible. Anyway, first I tried to remove the mouth with a paintbrush because I thought that would give me more control, but later on you'll see I used a Q-tip because that actually worked. The final thing to do was to go ahead and paint in the new mouth. The new mouth needed to be a square, and that was pretty much it. I left a little bit of the black outlines from the original mouth there, just with the intention of going over them. I also left the nosebleed there because in order to erase the nosebleed, I would have to erase some of the blush. Something I briefly considered was going in and painting the eyes yellow like his normal eyes instead of pink. But as I've mentioned before, messing up on some of the other faces really put me in my place, and I would rather have a successful project than a ruined face, so I kept the eyes pink. Now let's finish it off with something nice and simple. This is a pretty easy modification to do, with the biggest problem being the mouth. But I also wanted to change the eyes. They have those lashes on them and the sparkles, which are very pretty, but maybe not completely suited for Shinji. So the first thing I did was remove the mouth with acetone. Once that was done, I also very carefully removed the little lashes that were sticking out, and I only damaged a little bit of the left one. So good job, me. Other than that, it actually seems that this modification was so simple that I forgot to film it. But I will tell you that I painted the mouth on Shinji exactly the same way I did on Hanako-kun, by doing lots of light layers of paint until I got like a triangular shaped mouth, and then I did a row of teeth at the top. Oh, and I also painted the eyelashes black to cover up those pretty sparkles and to cover up where I had damaged the paint a little bit.
It's almost been 48 hours. Our case is running cold.
Not on my watch. I have a lead that says the next crime will be on the street.
Is that?
No. We were too late.
It's terrible.
The worst I've ever seen.
Cut. Perfect.